Hello, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Weekly Podcast. It's me and Kenny, and we've decided to go live. I don't know why we've decided this. No, people have been asking to go live. People apparently want to see a live show. I'm not sure why they want to hear from me and Kenny, but we're just here to discuss just the latest kind of rumours and the latest kind of stories and things. So, welcome along. It's our first. Andrew's not here, Kenny. This could go disastrously wrong. Let's be honest. So, yeah, let's get straight into it. So, a bit of, I wouldn't say breaking news, but there's a bit of a discussion tonight. And Keith Jackson, Daily Record, has says that Rangers have got a £5.5 million clause for Vaclav Cerny, and that has to be taken advantage of. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Before the end of May, we need to activate that. That's the word I'm looking for. I told you this isn't going to go well. And we need to activate that before the end of May. So that's a discussion. I have my own opinion on this, Kenny, on the verity of the actual claim. But I'm not sure of it. So we're going to discuss it anyway. First of all, Kenny, I would like to say if we could get Cerny for 5.5 million, it's an absolute scoosh, and I would take it. But what's your thoughts on it?
No, I totally agree with you. If that is true, and as you say, there's a little bit of uncertainty as to whether it is or not, then if it is £5.5 million, you get that done as quickly as possible, mate. That is a very, very good player with great numbers on the cheap. Let's not kid ourselves. That if that was the case at £5.5 million, yeah, I'm sure there'd be plenty of other suitors willing to pay a lot more than that, mate. I don't know what you think is about that, but for me, it's an absolute certainty. You have to go and buy that boy if that is the case.
If 5.5 million is real, right, then it's a certainty for me. However, a couple of things to state. Niels Coppin's already stated there was no option and there's no clause in this deal. It was stated at the time by Rangers officially, there's no option in this deal. So I'm unsure of why this has came about or what we're trying to do. Obviously, Keith Jackson recently had the exclusive on the Takeover, and he absolutely did. He got that information, but I'm not sure of the validity of this one, Kenny. That's what I'll say. Personally, the club have told us, all of us, when they signed him, that it's not valid and they don't have that option. So I'd be hugely surprised if this was true in any way. But if it is, go and get that deal done, because you talk about like numbers and wingers that have had that amount of involvement for us, goal wise, assist wise, and big moments as well. He's a big game player. When you think about that, they're not easy to find. And we found one by accident in Cerny, and I think he's great and would keep him. Absolutely would keep him. £5.5 million, perfect for me.
How long have we looked for a right winger, Stevie? It is an absolute certainty that if that were to be the case, then you have to look at that. 17 goals and I can't remember how many assists it is, 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. You have to absolutely look into that. And as you say, we're not sure if it is true, but if it is, then I would be I'd be really excited by that, because getting a player of that ability at that level, who's proved himself at the club, can prove himself at international level. He scored a lovely goal. Was it last night again? Absolutely. Get it done if that is the case. And I'd say, to be honest with you, Stevie, even if it's not, see if you could get him for maybe $1 million more, say 6.5, 7 million. And I know it's a lot of money for us, but I would be looking at that as well. To me, he is one that you can certainly look to keep for a year or two. And not that I'm saying that we particularly want to do this, but even in terms of moving him on, you would make a profit on this kid, because he is a top player.
Yeah, let's look at what James says a wee bit. And I'm trying to bring up as many comments as I can. Bear in mind, this is Kenny and I have just gone absolutely rogue and went live here. Didn't even ask Andrew if we could do it or how it's done. So I'm going to get as many comments up as I can. So it's great to have everybody involved and watching. So that's really good. James asks, is it a one-season wonder? What would concern me? Can't understand why Wolves were trying to offload him. 3 million would be a deal. I think 5.5 is steep. I think 3 million would be unbelievable. I've got a wee thought process on this. And here's what it is, Kenny. I spoke to you a wee bit about this before. I think Cerny on loan at the moment, we all think he's absolutely magnificent. Much as we did when Ryan Kent was on loan. All of a sudden, when we paid for Ryan Kent, people started to overanalyze him and say, hold on, Ryan Kent cost £7 million. And all the things that he was doing on loan at the same time that he was doing when he had signed permanently, all of a sudden weren't good enough. And my worry would be that if we went and got Cerny permanently, people would start judging the price tag. Because I don't think Cerny would have the same season that he's had this year. And there's a couple of reasons of that, and it's a hope more than anything. I am hoping that next season we get better players in, and there's better players around Cerny. So if Cerny is, for example, the same numbers around, I think they'll be split up. You'll have somebody from the left, you'll have strikers up front taking those numbers, etc. So I would hope that Cerny's numbers were as high, but maybe they wouldn't be if there's better players around them. Now, if we're going to be in a position of takeover and stuff like that, I would hope that is the case, Kenny. And I think if we paid big money for him, and I'm on record as saying 5 million or so is kind of where I am with it. If we're paying that kind of money, I hope that people would judge him on what he's doing on the pitch and not be focused on price tag, because the reality of a £5 million price tag is, in this day and age, it's the old 1 or 2 million that you used to pay for a player. And that's just where we are in terms of what the transfer market's like for us. We're in a position where £4 million is big money for us currently. If you've got a hit like Cerny at just a wee bit extra, I'm paying that. I just think it's, I understand what James said. That is a good point about it being a one season thing. But I think if you go into it with a, how am I wording this? If you go into it with a realization that maybe it's not going to be as good as this year because this season's been absolutely spectacular, it might just be a bit better performance-wise with better players around them, but maybe not as high numbers-wise. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And you've stole my thunder a little bit, because it's exactly when you were talking there is exactly what I was thinking. £5.5 million is not a lot of money for a football player. It's a lot of money for us, but it's not a lot of money for a football player these days. And when you're spending the kind of money that we do, and this is why we want to, get this player trading model in place. What we have been wanting to do is buy as cheap as you can on a slightly younger player and make profit, keep him for 2 or 3 years and sell him on. Cerny's a little bit different because I think he's 27 now, just turned 27. So there's scope here to understand this, that when you look at the situation with someone like Cerny, he's played that many games, Stevie. He's been playing 2 games a week, literally all season. And you would hope with new owners coming in that there'd be competition for places. Exactly what you're saying, that there'll be better players round about him and more competition for places. You'd be able to rest him a little bit more. You'd get full impact, because there's been times in the last 6-7 weeks where you actually have seen that he is just dead on his feet. He's shattered and he's needed a rest. And with Ross McCausland having slight injury problems and stuff like that, he's not really had any great structure to his season. So he's not really being thrust back into the team so much. So I do agree with you. This is what I feel about that, is that he's a little bit older than perhaps you would want to go and spend that kind of money, but at the same time, we've seen the season he's had, Stevie. He's been absolutely immense for us. So, and we could look back to the 90s and the noughties, and 3, 4, 5 million was a thing that we would do quite often, Stevie. And we didn't have the same stress in the fan base about a guy clicking and doing it instantly and doing it week in, week out, because we had a much stronger squad back then. And that's where I think, for me personally, it's just a no-brainer, Stevie. If you can get this guy for that kind of money, and he's happy to come here, he might get better offers, Stevie. This is the thing. He has had such a great season that you could find teams in England or Italy or wherever might fancy him, and it's going to make it harder for us to keep him here. But then if you can entice him with European football, trophies to be won, and the possibility of moving to England in a year or two, then yeah, it's a no-brainer.
I think that's a good point as well from Laney GB. Says that we cannot keep buying youngsters. I agree with that completely. There needs to be a balance. You can have as many, not projects, I don't like that word because I don't think projects at Rangers work, but you can have as many exciting young talents who you hope to promote on and sell on and make to be superstars, maybe like a Hamza Igaman, for example. But you do need experience, and Cerny certainly got that. Look, as I said, I think he's scooshed this season. I think he's been a wonderful player for Rangers. He really has. I really like him. I think he's got a really good attitude. I liked early on in the season how he was so hard on himself, and we got to know him and speak about how honest he was after, I think it maybe St Johnstone, it was a Sunday game. He scored a couple and he wanted more, and since then he's really went on. So praise, for Philip Clement and getting that out of him. And I think he's kicked on from here. A couple of other points. I quite like this. I'm going to bring them up as well. Used by Rami as a sweetener from Craig Gallagher. I'm not sure that would be definitely something to do. But what I would say, Kenny, is would you, if you could sell, for example, by Rami, and you say it didn't work, if you could get £3 million back that we paid on him, if you could get money for, say, £2 million or £1.5 million, whatever, for a Cifuentes or whatever, because these guys aren't part of it. Dowell, Ben Davies are down at Birmingham. We're going to get money in for these guys. Now, it might not be a lot. The way we sell our players, it might not even be anything. But if you can get some sort of fee for them, wouldn't you rather? Even if it didn't come out your budget, you could say the money you got incoming, that goes straight on Cerny. I think that's a no-brainer kind of word. I don't like the no-brainer thing, but it would make sense to me if you're putting guys out that maybe haven't settled. If you're using that income, you would do it, wouldn't you?
Listen, we've got a sporting director coming in and new manager perhaps coming in thereafter, and there will be a complete, when I say a complete overhaul, there'll be an overhaul of the squad here. And boys like by Rami, who there's clearly a football player in there, but he's not what we need. And you've mentioned Cifuentes, who I keep forgetting about every time somebody mentions him. I think, oh, he's still a Rangers player. But guys like Davis, and as you say, and Dowell, these guys are surplus to requirements, and we have to try and max out and what we get on them. But at the same time, I would keep this separate, actually, and just purely on the basis that Cerny will be up for Player of the Year this season. And you do look at it and think, if we have that option, then regardless to anyone else, I would be keeping them. But I do totally understand what you're saying, because when you actually analyse our squad, I think there could be as many as, and we've done it every year for the past 3 years, I think it is, but there could be as many as 10 or 11 out and 10 or 11 in again, Stevie, and we have to maximise the money that we can get in. So if it helps to bring Cerny in, yeah, I totally get it. But I would actually personally be looking at trying to make sure you get that money and bringing the guy in if he's interested, because he's a top player.
Right, let's just, for people maybe just joining us, the Cerny rumours tonight is broken by Keith Jackson on Daily Record that $5.5 million is a clause that we must activate towards the end of May, and we can get him for that amount. This, for clarity, has been denied previously by Rangers, not this evening, has been denied previously. Niels Coppin has stated there is no clause in this contract. Rangers himself on signing them said there was no clause. So we'll wait and see an update for that. I'm sure there will be one coming. I know my colleagues over at Rangers Review are already on that. Chris Jack loves to tell us these things aren't true, but Chris is busy tonight. He's off to see the King. So, and I don't mean Dave, I mean the real King. So we'll wait and see about that. Well done to Chris Jack, a tremendous guy, outstanding journalist as well. Let's talk about something that I wanted to talk about now. It's a wee bit up here. It's not this one, although I did think that was quite funny. Can we sell my wife towards a Cerny cash pot? Probably best to comment on these things. Right, hypothetical question. If you could have Cerny or Sema, which one would you buy? Both of them are really, really good.
Both.
Here it is. This is the one I was looking for. And this is our next topic. John Turner asks, Raskin will be hard to keep. What price would you sell him for? Kenny, would you sell him? What would you sell him for? Because I've got my own opinion on this.
I think it might be hard to keep him, but I wouldn't sell him. I would be looking to try and get him to sign a new deal, get him an extra couple of years, give him the 4 years. I think he's got 2 years left. Am I right? Yeah, and I think that's what I would be looking at. Make him the captain, and people might not like that. TAV fans might not like that, but I actually think we're at that point as a football club now that we have to restructure the entire squad and look to the future. He's young enough. He's proven when he had the armband earlier on in the season that he's tailor-made for it. He's a captain. He is a captain, and he's a leader of men. Actually, you can see it on the field, and I love that. He's a nippy wee sweetie on the field, and I love that about him. He's not shy at getting tore in and coming forward. But if we were to sell him, Stevie, I would be looking at. I just seen that there. I would be looking at 20 million minimum. I genuinely would, because some of the clubs that are being linked to him, you're going to have a bidding war if that were to come to pass. But listen, it's a player is only worth however much anybody's willing to pay for him. We know that. But if I'm Rangers, I would be turning around saying, start the bids at 20 million and we'll see where we're at. And that might be unrealistic. Some people might look at that and say, well, you're not going to get that for him. I actually think you would. I think that if you're talking about a Belgian international with his very best days in front of him, Stevie, then that's what I'd be looking at, because he's keeping some tremendous players out of that Belgian team now, isn't he? So look at the value of them and tell me that he isn't worth it, because I just won't believe that.
Right, here's where I am on this. I think Nico Raskin is an absolutely tremendous footballer who has got better. We talk about youngsters like Igaman being the projects and stuff like that. I think Raskin was the exact same when he came to Rangers, full of promise. He's now fulfilling that. He's a Belgian international. And by all accounts, he's a Belgian international that absolutely run the game the other night against Ukraine to come back and win that 3-0 as part of the team. It wasn't all Nico Raskin, that's not my point. But he certainly contributed. I think that he is now a young, upcoming Belgian international, and they should not come cheaply. I am not starting even looking at bids until they're 15 million upwards. And that's 15 million with a whole load of add-ons and everything else. Now, he's got 2 years left. It all depends on what Nico wants to do. He was quite honest. He says, I'm coming here to go to the Premiership and go to Chelsea. Right? I've got no issues with that. And I've never had any issues with that. My issues have been like that when players are sitting on their arse and aren't performing or are injured or not doing it. Nico's now doing it. It was about this time last year when I asked the manager, then in charge, what does Nico Raskin have to do to play? Because this was at the time where he was throwing in your Kieran Dowells out of nowhere and stuff like that. I'm glad he's in. And for that kind of money, you have to be honest and say that we would need to look at it. But this is the honest truth, that we need to get into a structure where, and we might not like it. And it's difficult because I think this should maybe wait until we're winning. I think we should do everything we can to keep Nico Raskin at the club at the moment. He's got 2 years left. Would you give him a new contract and entice him to stay? Absolutely, you would. But we have to sell players at top value at their top limit. For us, Nico Raskin might be in the summer. So that's the only thing I would say, is that we've been guilty in the past. Your Morelos's, your Kents, your Barisic's, Kamara even, not selling them at the absolute maximum value. I think we have to be aware of that, Kenny. So that might sway me aside also. I would, I think there's a sell on as well for Raskin, so we need to look at what we're selling him for. We need to make sure that we cover ourselves on that as well. Absolutely, a lot of people saying that in the comments. But I think that we have to be honest with ourselves. We're not a selling team as such, but everybody is. You look at the market over the road, and they've done it, unfortunately, very well. We need to be aware of, if that mega money does come in for somebody like him, we have to consider it.
It's the nature of our game, Stevie. We play in Scotland, and any football player that wants to make the top level has ambitions of playing in the Premier League or La Liga or the Bundesliga or Serie A. That's what they do. That's where all the very, very top players are playing there. So you can't fault the boy's ambition if he wants to move on. That you can't do that. You can't do that with any player of ours. They might go to smaller clubs than ours, but they're going to bigger leagues, and with what would you say, a viewpoint where you can turn around and showcase your actual talents to the world on these stages. But you can't do that in Scotland, whether we like that or not. That's just the nature of us. And you make a point about them across the city, but it is what they do, Stevie. They've managed to get the buy low, sell high thing done really pretty well over the last decade, where we've had chaos ensuing around about our club. But we're not far away from it, because, as you've mentioned, the amount of times that we have managed to make a rip-roaring backside of, whether it's a Kamara or a Morelos or whoever may be, we've only really managed to max out with Calvin Bassey. We got a good deal for young Nathan Patterson as well. But it's something that we really do have to, as a football club, fix. We need to get that right, because we have not got this right for a long, long time. Oh, there's Bobby on the chat there. They see that. Hi, Bobby. Good to see you, buddy. But honestly, mate, it's just one of those things that, for me, it will depend an awful lot on what Nico Raskin himself wants to do, because he's clearly an ambitious kid. He's clearly going places. So you need to get him on a golden handcuff, if you like, if you can do that, and turn around and say to him, look, we will not stand in your way, but we want to maximise what we can get out of this for ourselves, while making sure that you progress as a football player to the very, very highest level of the game, if he's willing to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, I'm just going to quickly say there's almost 2,500 people watching this live stream, which is crazy numbers. Thank you for everyone that's tuned in. It would really help us if you gave us a like and a follow or a sub on YouTube and things as we grow. You might have seen recently we've done a Davy Cooper documentary, which is just over 9,000 people have watched that. Incredible numbers. We're going to do more. We've got lots of things coming up that we'd really like to do, and being able to produce that sort of thing, the more of you that are supporting it, and the more we can do. So if you're out there watching, if you can like and subscribe, I would absolutely love it. I'm not in my wee dungeon, as Kenny calls it, and many others on the internet call it, for nothing. So yeah, that would be absolutely wonderful if you could. However, I appreciate the support. As I said, me and Kenny went rogue and decided to go live, so it's been a bit of fun. Let's move on, Kenny, talk about Barry Ferguson a wee bit. He's been brilliant since he came in. I think that's fair. In terms of where we were, the position we won, he's done fantastically well to get that result out in Fenerbahce. Then to win over there has been absolutely brilliant. I think he's done a tremendous job. I really like Barry. I've got a personal relationship with him through working with 5 Stars. So I'm absolutely biased. I don't mind telling anybody that. You know that I am, Kenny. But I think at this moment in time, it's a bit early to be talking about Barry Ferguson as manager. I would absolutely love it, and I'll explain why in a minute. But I would like to just take our time with these things. we have been wary of a player bounce before. There's a long way to go, and I don't think we need to rush into anything at the moment. So for me, at this moment in time, Barry Ferguson, an absolute pass mark. He's done a tremendous things. Hopefully, it will keep going from strength to strength. But I don't want to be in any rush to make any decisions regarding that.
No, we don't need to be. And listen, being perfectly blunt about it, mate, it's not our decision, is it? It's the simple fact is that, you know, Greater Steinson's been about with Andrew Kavanagh, and he's obviously looking at everything concerning the squad. And I know the story was that Andrew Kavanagh and a delegation were up at the training centre and had decided that they were going to refurb the training centre and stuff like that as well. So if they're doing that, Stevie, then their plans with everything are really far down the line. So whether the decision on Barry's been made or not by them, we don't know. Obviously, we have no idea. But he's doing himself no harm, right? And he's started pretty well. My concern is that, you know, and I don't want to be down on him because I think he's done a cracking job, and I don't think the Fenerbahce defeat at Ibrox necessarily means much because he got through the tie. But we've lost a couple of games, and we need to see how this squad progresses, because over the years, Stevie, we do get that manager bounce, as you say, but it does feel a little bit different. I think the way the players have been quite openly praising you know, the way that they're being trained one-to-one and things like that has made a big difference. And by all accounts, they weren't getting trained one-to-one, which I find mind-boggling, actually, that you don't take players one-to-one and try and improve them. And that's not been happening under the previous regime, the previous manager. And it is happening now. And by all accounts, quite a number of players are staying behind and getting one-to-one training because they're loving it, they're enjoying it, they're appreciating it, and it's showing in their performances. And listen, any Rangers manager that turns up and goes to their midden and beats them 3-2 in their first game is going to catch the eye of the supporters, because there's just no getting away from it. That is the shot in the arm that we've needed this last week to keep our season going towards the end of the season. Because think about it, a couple of weeks ago, you know, a month ago, we genuinely felt that our season was pretty much done and dusted. We weren't sure we were going to get past Fenerbahce at all, and we have now, and that's credit to Barry and his backroom staff. And this is where they have a big decision to make, Stevie, because I think we've mentioned this before very quickly here, that we discussed this, that if you don't keep Barry on and you bring perhaps somebody from abroad and it takes him 6 months to figure the league out, then he won't win the league. They have to be able to do that. Barry knows this league, and that's what he has to his advantage when it comes to perhaps potentially getting a job. I don't know what you feel about that, but that's my kind of take on it, that it's a big decision. It's the biggest decision the club's got over the next few months.
Well, there's one of many, isn't it? I think there's some huge decisions to go on. I like this comment here. There's a massive difference between being interim and permanent manager. Pressures are so different. The players respond differently. I think that's spot on, and it's also why I don't think there's a rush. There's also a follow-up question by the same poster asking who's a realistic choice for next Rangers manager. Here's my position on it. I would absolutely love Barry Ferguson to be in the running to be Rangers manager and be a strong candidate, because it means that we've done really well against Bilbao, and I think he needs to do that. And I also think that we'll have a fantastic run to the end of the season. Now, we can't have a fantastic finish because we can't win anything, but we can go on a good run of performances and form. So that's interesting for me, and it would put Barry up there, I think. I think that's fair, but there's still nothing, and we can argue about pressures and stuff like that. I think Barry's backroom staff is really good. I said it at the time when he comes in, the coaches, Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, Alan McGregor, will all demand absolutely everything. And there's a lot said about Billy and Neil for whatever comments they've made. They've got a job to do. These are Rangers men. So I'm really enthused by that possibility of them knowing there. And I think that regardless, I would like to see Neil McCann, Alan McGregor involved no matter what happens. For Barry, it's a one of these ones. I would love him to do really, really well because I've spoke about this. I don't want to go away in a tangent. I'm conscious that we've kept people 30 minutes already, and I love everybody tuning in. 2,700 watching, a couple of wee baldy guys talk about Rangers. We are available for sponsorship, Head and Shoulders, if you're watching. Anyway, moving on very quickly. I think that the manager of Rangers doesn't need to be a coach. It doesn't need to be a Le Guin or a Clement or a Van Bronckhorst or a Beale. It needs to be a figurehead. Now, if you look at every single positive Rangers manager we've had in the past, even in my lifetime, Souness, Smith, McLeish, Advocaat, Steven Gerrard, these are guys that are figurehead appointments. And I find that interesting about the route of where we should be going down. I don't like to say names or anything like that, but I would rather go down that route than go anywhere else. And that's my position with it. So with Barry, I think he falls into that. Now, I'm not saying Barry for manager. That's not the case. What I'm saying is we should take our time regarding it. And there's certainly more. There's more time to discuss this. Absolutely true. Just to be clear, Mr. Sheen, if you're watching, we'll also take sponsorship from you also. However, Kenny, moving on. Unfortunately, we have to talk about this. I don't like talking about this, you know that. But the banners this week. Do you know what? I've said it before. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm a Rangers fan. I've followed Rangers just like you, Kenny, for years and years. 30 years almost. I've had a season ticket. Followed them. Started following them when we were going with a cool and Fort William Rangers Supporters Club with good friends like Jimmy, Kelly and stuff like that. We were all going down together. Paid all the boys and from that fam, Michael, Rab, all the boys that I'm still friends with now. Followed them all the way throughout my years. And all I've ever really cared about is Rangers and what's happening with Rangers on the pitch. Politics, everything else like that, I'm quite happy for that to be pushed to the side and people to do that outside of Rangers. I think that when you start bringing all that kind of stuff into it, then somebody like UEFA will come along. Now, I've got no doubts, and I firmly believe this, that UEFA's views and the things that the punishments that they hand out is completely skewed. I think they pick and choose easy targets. I think we're an easy target. We're a smaller club. They wouldn't do it to a powerhouse, I don't believe. But when UEFA say you have to go with it because it's their ball, what are you supposed to do about it? And that, to me, is where I am with it. I would rather we just concentrated on what's going on the pitch. I think that what's happened is UEFA being UEFA, but I'm not sure there's anything we can really do about it in terms of that. That's my opinion on it, Kenny. I would rather that our football club just stuck to football. I would rather that our fans stuck to football. There's so much to talk about. We're on the verge of winning almost a lottery ticket in terms of a takeover, which we've been praying for and asking for, to sort finances, to sort global reach, to sort infrastructure of the club, to sort all sorts of stuff. We might actually be on the verge of that, Kenny. Can we not just concentrate on this stuff? Concentrate on the takeovers, concentrate on the new manager, on all sorts of stuff like that. That's what I'd rather do.
Yeah, I totally agree. The issue is there's a lot to unpack from this, right? And look, I think part of the issue here is when the club released a statement yesterday saying that this is the punishment and here is a 2-year suspended sentence about the Copeland Road being closed for a European game. Now, one of the things that I have a little bit of an issue with is that ultra, this ultra fandom thing now is a big thing everywhere. And what Rangers have done is accommodated our ultras and put them in the Copeland Road And I would imagine there's an awful lot of people in the Copeland Road not very happy about what's going on here, because they are now in danger of missing a game, a massive game at the end of the day in Europe. And for what? Because do we honestly, and I don't want to sit and be the guy that kind of sits there and puts the boot in, because that's not my intention. But do we all honestly believe that this is going to sit there for 2 years and they're going to do nothing? Because I'm not sure they will. And I think it's becoming a little bit of an issue for the club. But the same as the ultra situation has become an issue for clubs all over Europe. It's a big issue now, because they are important to the atmosphere and the tifos, and the kind of extravaganza that they bring to certain games. But the bottom line, Stevie, is that you can't put banners like this up, whether people think that there's nothing in it or not. My son kind of explained it to me a little bit, and I'm not going to go into detail on a live show, but he kind of explained it a little bit to me, and there is an undertone to it that I didn't know about. And I think that's where the fine and the suspended sentence came from. And I'm not keen on that at all. And the issue we have with it is a really simple one. You've just alluded to it. Whether people like it or not, when you look through the comments on Twitter of the club statement, the amount of people that were tell UEFA where to go, tell them, who do they think they are? Well, unfortunately, UEFA basically run our stadium in European games. It's their ball, as you say, and they basically take control of our stadium. So if they don't like something in it, it's their competition, and what they do is punish the team where the fans are what they see as misbehaviour. That's what they do, and I can't for the life of me actually, Stevie, get my head around that the amount of fans, our fans, that are turning around and saying, tell UEFA where to go. Go and understand what's actually happening when you play a European competition. It is entirely up to them. And you don't have any kind of right to appeal or anything like that, do you? You take your punishment and that's it, that you have to do it. So it's a difficult one to go into, because, as I say, the young lads do wonderful things, but they're also bringing difficult situations to the football club. And going by the tone of that club statement yesterday, there is a long battle ahead with them, and the club weren't being particularly pleasant or nice about it, Stevie. So I'm not convinced we're not going to get some stormy waters over the next few months, because we know what's going on, and it's very difficult to kind of deal with. And I think the club are really not happy at all with this.
Yeah, listen, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think that's UEFA's ball, and when they speak, regardless of what anybody else thinks, it's not great. But let's return to a wee bit of news from the top of the show. I did say that our good friends at Rangers Review, and also something I'm part of, were working on confirmation that the Cerny story was nonsense. Unfortunately, it's kind of what we discussed at the top of the show, wasn't it, Kenny? They are reporting there's no clause for Cerny. Honestly, I am not shocked. We spoke at the top about Neil's Coppin in the club already denying it, so I'm not sure where Jackson has got that from. However, Rangers Review report there's no clause, and what I would say is that if Joshua and Rangers Review are reporting that, then it is 100% true, because they will be spot on with it. Let's move on, Kenny. Let's talk about something a little bit different, a little bit of fun to be had. We are in the middle of a takeover. We haven't really had a chance to discuss this, I think, live, certainly not. And quickly, I'll just tell you, Joshua has just texted me back there, confirmed as nonsense, the Cerny stuff. So there you go, completely untrue. Let's move on from that. So let's go back. The takeover. Listen, I'll speak about it quite openly. I haven't really spoke about it. I would like to know a wee bit more about what the aims and things are. I think that's natural, but we'll find that out in due course. I'm excited because this football club has needed a shot in the arm for a very long time. I think it's needed a surge of adrenaline. I think it's needed that that not on life support as such, but I think it's needed a wee shock, a jolt. It needs something. I think as a fan base, we need it. I think that the club needs it, and I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited. So, and I'll quickly just say, I'm sorry to jump about. I've literally just had a text message myself. There is no option to buy, and that is confirmed now as well. Completely out with Rangers Review. Confirmed, no option to buy for Cerny. So just to back up what Joshua Rangers Review are saying, that is now official. So there is no clause to buy. Back to takeover stuff. Sorry to bounce about and I'd rather read out the texts as they're coming in. I'm excited about this takeover, Kenny. I really are, for a number of reasons. I don't expect all of a sudden it to be like £100 million summer splurge. What I do want, though, is infrastructure, proper people in heads of department, key figures around the club, pushing for the best bits. I think commercially, we need somebody to take it on for the next bit. I think corporate-wise, we need that. I think there's positions all around the club which will make us a lot stronger. And that's where I'm looking for with regards to this takeover. The signings in the summer, I think will happen. I think that's natural, but I'm not getting excited about 50 millions or 100 millions or 10 million pound players. I'm looking for structure. I'm looking for infrastructure around the whole club. I'm looking for the last of the need of this summer to really go in and sign like 12, 15 players. Maybe it's not going to be that much. You know what I mean? I'm looking for like the last of the big turnovers. I'm looking for proper. Now, this is a last kind of reset. I'm looking for, that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. A revolution, but I don't necessarily expect it to happen at 100 miles an hour. I know we've got a long way to go, but building that team, and I like this from James McNichol as well, building a robust team in the summer and build from that. I like that. So, and I think also as well, Paul makes a comment as well. I'm trying to get as many up as I can. How fast you think they'll move once they'll control the club? I'm going to say this, Kenny, and I'll bring you right in on this. They're currently doing all their due diligence. They've got people in at the club. The boy Steinson, isn't it? He's there right now watching every game. He's at every game. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he's heavily involved at Rangers. In a position, I'm not going to speculate on what one. It wouldn't surprise me if he's involved in that at all. How fast I think they'll move once they control the club? Very fast. I think they'll know what they're doing miles in advance. I think they'll know what they're going to spend on. I think they'll know the projects they're going to do. Talk about upgrading training facility, rumoured and stuff like that. Rumours about expanding and doing work all throughout the club. Great. I think they'll know, and I think they'll move really fast, Kenny.
I don't doubt it at all. And one thing that we have when the 49ers and Andrew Kavanagh come in, as long as it happens, obviously, is that we have this great advantage that perhaps other clubs won't have when a takeover comes, is that they've had 5 or 6 years of experience at Leeds, who are a massive club themselves, and they've, while they might have made a mistake or two along the way, they've learned from it and rectified it very, very quickly. And Leeds are thriving as a football club at this minute in time. And here is the kind of great thing for me, is that this has been going on since October. And by the time they take control, you're talking about 9 months, and nobody, with the professionalism that the 49ers have, with the expertise in every department, this is a $9 billion business. Think about that for a little minute. They're one of the biggest sporting entities on this planet. They are literally one of the biggest sporting corporations on earth. And I think they're in the top 8, top 9. And you've got to look at that and say, bring that to me, and we have to thrive on that as a football club. We have to, well, I'll put it differently. What we're going to see, Stevie, I think, is a huge modernisation in a very, very rapid time frame. Now, I'm not suggesting it's going to be months. I think over the next 2 or 3 years, you will see an incredible amount of changes. And as you say, the people within the club, there'll be a professionalism about that we haven't seen for a long, long time. And that's not to be disrespectful to anybody that's there. It's just that these guys, you know what American companies are like? They are just primed to make money. And to make money at a football club, you have to spend money first. And that's where I presume that when you're talking about the squad, I would expect as many as 8 or 9 in and 8 or 9 out kind of thing, as I said earlier on, perhaps even more. But I don't think it'll be a massive splurge of cash. I don't necessarily see that. I think if you were to sell a Raskin or an Igaman, that will add to that money. But I don't think you'll go and see them spending, as you say, crazy, crazy amounts. I don't think it's what they do. No, that's not true though. It's 9 billion, isn't it? That's how much they're worth. 9 billion. Not the 10% stake is.
Listen, I think we're talking about billions. I'm quite happy for it to be whatever.
That's true.
We're currently talking about £100,000 signings in January to go from that to this.
I think they're talking about 800 odd million being freed up, 900 million being freed up, and this is part of the.
Well, we'll take that for the summer transfer budget.
Yeah, we'll take that over the next 3 years, thanks. But look, this is the way I kind of see it with this. Everybody's kind of concerned when you get a foreign owner, or you don't know what. Just look into them a little bit, and I'd urge everybody watching, just go and have a read about what they do, and you will be put much more at ease, because they are as professional and profitable as you could ever get, and they're very successful at what they do. And as I say, I would just look down the road at Leeds. Now, I've been at Leyland Road a couple of times, not for a long time, and a really passionate football club and a brilliant football club, and one of my favourite clubs, out with Rangers to watch, because I've always had a thing for Leeds, and I'm delighted that these guys are coming. And as I said, I think they first turned up in 2018, took a little bit more of a stake in 2019, and got total control of Leeds 2 years ago. And from the minute they went in, Leeds have just got more and more prosperous, more and more professional, and as a club that had been similar to ours, if you look at it over the period of the last 15, 20 years, look at them prosper now. And if they can do that for us, Stevie, I'll be absolutely delighted. Mbappe, handy.
He'll be good for the bench, that's for sure. Listen, I think we'll stop there. We've been 50 minutes. Folks, there's 3,300 people watching this show. I find that absolutely remarkable, and thanks very much. We didn't really, we decided absolutely off the cuff to go live. Something that people have been asking for a very long time was to have an interactive live show. Just to explain a wee bit, we're a new podcast as such. We're only really been doing this now for a year, and in that year we've had 1 million views on YouTube. We've had some unbelievable moments. We made our first documentary that we really hope people enjoyed. There is more documentaries to come, really exciting ones. We've got former players coming on, hopefully former managers coming on, and we're going to do some big things. We've got some amazing podcasts lined up as well, and we're going to bring you that and do our very best. So we hope you enjoy it. People have asked a wee bit about when you're going to do these. It takes time for us to kind of build up and get, people that want to do it and things like that, because it does, see, the amount of abuse you get for this, my poor wee Luke's get battered every single day I'm on here. But you just take it and you get on with it. I love talking about Rangers. I love this football club, and I really love all your support. So I appreciate it. Kenny, before we end, thanks for joining us, mate. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, mate. I enjoyed that myself. Didn't know we were going live till about a minute before we started. But if we're talking about sponsors, forget Head and Shoulders, mate. It's Gillette. Gillette for me, Mac 5s and shaving gels and all that. That would be lovely. Lovely.
Nothing like a wee personal plug, is there? So, right, yeah. I mean, yeah. Let's thank our sponsors that we do have, folks. Rhino Express, Jim and Mando. What a team boys are. They're friends of mine, absolutely brilliant. The team at Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions. A lot of you will know Big Ian Martin. He goes everywhere, supports us. I asked Ian for help last summer, and within an hour, everything we could possibly want. And then there's Carlo over at CSD Air Conditioning. Honestly, everybody that supports us is unbelievable. Kev and the team at Black Rooster. Again, let us do all sorts of challenges, sponsorship. We'll do more of them as well, and we've just had a great time. Honestly, we've absolutely loved it, every minute of the podcast. So we hope people are enjoying it. Just to bring up a couple of more comments quickly, I tried to get as many comments up as I could, so I hope people don't mind that. And I don't know what this is. We'll ask Andrew. Put live upcoming tag on YouTube, and 3300 will be smashed next time. Honestly, just to say, we kind of decided last minute to go live, so that's the reason we did, just to kind of try it and just to say, thanks, because people were asking for it. So we absolutely didn't mind doing it. I hope we've not waffled on too long. We'll also put it up so that people can catch up with it, download it, and listen to. We are available on Spotify and everything else, and we have a great time doing it. So, yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. Kenny, thanks for joining us. We'll be back over the weekend. We'll be back instant reaction, I think, after Dundee on Saturday night, and then we'll cover the women's home game against Hearts as well on Sunday. So, really enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for joining us. We have been Kenny and Stevie on Four Lads Live. We'll probably do this again. Thanks very much, everybody. If you could like and subscribe, follow us on YouTube and things like that, it would be absolutely brilliant. That helps us do bigger and better things, which hopefully we will do. So thank you, everyone. Good night, and thanks very much.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.